Welcome to the Nick Blevins Family Ministry Podcast. Our goal is to help you maximize your church's potential. You'll hear from top leaders in children's, student, and family ministry about the principles and practices they use. Now here's your host, Nick Blevins.
Hey, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Nick. I'm your host, and in this episode, I interview 3 staff members all together, first time that's happened on the podcast, from LCBC Church. Their church is located in Pennsylvania. It's a multi-site church, I believe 9 locations, around 15,000 people attend LCBC Church at their various campuses, and we talk about what children's ministry and student ministry look like in their church. You know, at their largest campus of 6,000, their smallest campus of maybe a few hundred, and how they support all of that centrally. So you're going to love that. But before we jump into that interview, I just want to let you know the survey is finally finished, or at least the results. If you don't know what I'm talking about, a month ago or more, I asked many of you to participate in a survey about children's and student ministry staffing and volunteer ratios. So the idea was to dig into how many staff should I have for the number of kids that we have attending our church? How many staff should we have for the number of students? Same thing with volunteers. How many volunteers should we have? And all of that. So many of you participated in that survey. So thank you for that. The analysis is done and ready. So if you took part in the survey, you should have already received an email from me with the results. If you did not and you would like the results, there's a catch. You have to take the survey, because I didn't do the survey as a one-shot, fill it out and then just kind of be done with it thing. It's really something I just want to continue to update. So every year I'll stop and analyze the results again and kind of re-release the results of the survey, but I want to keep gathering this data so it's as strong as possible. Get as many churches filling it out. We had a little over 600 churches fill it out, which made for great data and reliable information, but we would love to keep adding some more. So check your email if you completed the survey to see those results, or you can go to my site, nickblevins.com, fill it out for your church, and get those results as well. Something else I'm sure you're wondering about is who won the prizes. Well, lots of people won the prizes, and they've been emailed. So if you won something, hopefully you have that email from me. If not, sorry. The results are on my website as well if you want to check that out, though. One last quick announcement before we jump into the interview. If you lead in children's ministry and you'll be at the Children's Pastors Conference next week, I will be too. I'm excited to be there. I'll be leading a couple breakouts, and I'd love to meet you. So hit me up on Twitter, email me, maybe find me at the conference, and I'd love to connect. But now let's go ahead and jump into my interview with the staff at LCBC Church. Well, I'm here in Manheim, Pennsylvania at LCBC Church, out here sort of in the middle of nowhere, a lot of farms and fields, but we're going to talk with 3 folks from here, so it's kind of a unique podcast, and I'll let them introduce themselves. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. My name's Jason Schaefer, Director of Kid Ministry here at LCBC.
All right.
And my name is Chad Herman, and I'm the Central Director of Student Ministry here at LCBC.
Hey, Nick, thanks for having us. I'm Sonia Waltman, and I'm the Executive Director of Ministries here at LCBC.
Oh, so you had a nice welcome there, too.
Oh,
yeah, it was. It was good.
He drove all the way up
See,
here.
up the level. It comes with the Executive Director role.
Executives know how to add that little flair.
Yes. I should do that as a podcast host, but, whatever. If I'm not going to do it, somebody else can do it. And so this is a unique podcast because this is the first podcast with multiple people, and the goal is to kind of just get a picture of how you do ministry at LCBC, children's ministry, student ministry specifically, but who wants to jump in and give kind of an overview of LCBC Church, where you are now, a little bit of a history? There's some pointing going on. There's some assigning. I think it's you. I think it's
me. Yeah, so we're super excited. This past year, we have been celebrating our 30th anniversary as a church organization, and super excited about that. We are currently at 9 campuses, and we've got 1 affiliate as well, and a couple campuses coming down the pike, so to be determined at a later date, so we won't reveal too much. And so we've been multi-site since about 2007, had roughly 6,000 before we launched into multi-site, and we've been learning a lot along the way.
That's awesome. So you have, I'm going to jump in and ask you a random question that was not in the script already. So we're going to talk a lot about multi-site church. Yeah, just get ready for this. Just get ready. We're going to talk a lot about multi-site and what it looks like at different campuses and all those things. But you mentioned there's an affiliate already.
Yes.
So that's kind of, I'm guessing, a church that shares a lot of your mission, vision, strategy, content, maybe even, and where is that located? What's that look like?
Yeah, actually, we've got one affiliate, and we also have done multiple adoptions. And we've had one. So the goal would be we enter into an affiliate relationship with the goal of becoming a campus. So currently our affiliation right now is up it's Hill City Church up in Hazleton, Pennsylvania.
Okay. So the goal is that they eventually become a campus, though, because some models like North Point Community Church, they'll have their partnership churches where they're never going to become part of it as a campus. They're just always going to be an affiliate. But this is almost like a stepping stone for you, it sounds like.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
that's cool.
That's the ultimate goal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to dive in and ask about, what children's ministry looks like, what student ministry looks like. So we'll start with children's ministry, Jason. So that's you.
Sure.
Can you give us an overview of, what it looks like, especially multi-site, how it can be different at different campuses, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so right now, on an average weekend, we're seeing close to 3,000 kids on a weekend, and broken out among 9 campuses. Our largest campus has roughly 1,000 kids coming to it, and our smallest anywhere from 40 to 70 on a given weekend. And so generally a pretty big span of what we need to try and accomplish each and every weekend. But definitely think that our ministry is focused around lots of things, God-centered, number one, but just being real relational with kids and allowing them to have lots of fun when they come to church. And so everything that we do has pretty specific intentionality to make sure that we're setting up kids for good relationships, not just with their small group leaders. We call them life group leaders, but not just with their life group leaders, but also with Jesus ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Do you call, speaking of life group leaders, do you call small groups life groups for adults too? Because I think it's always important when it's the same language. It's not life groups here and youth groups or something with students and small groups for adults. That's
we start life groups at age 2.
That's awesome.
Yeah, build that foundation, large group, small group, starting at age 2 all the way up through adults.
That's cool. So what, in children's ministry specifically, as a multi-site church, you always have to decide what is decided at the campus versus what is church-wide. And it's kind of like it's like a tension or like this has to be the same. Here you have some freedom. What are some of the big things and where do they fall on that spectrum? What is decided for you as a campus? Where can you make some of your own decisions?
Sure. I think one of the biggest aspects for what we try to do to make sure a campus is supported well, probably kid ministry, student ministry, as well as adult ministry, is the employees, the staff on a campus are really people. They're super focused on people and relationships and almost overly extroverted type of people. And the people that are on our central team are more introverted, they're task-oriented, very organizational. And so as we've been able to determine what comes out of central and what happens on a campus, I think that we've used and leveraged the skills of the central team and hired the central team for the purpose of producing the content, the materials that are delivered out to a campus. And so for kid ministry, all of the curriculum content that we share on a weekend with kids is produced centrally. All of the devotionals, the take-home pieces, all of that stuff that needs to be produced in some way or fashion is done centrally, as well as a lot of our purchasing. So it's super easy to say, hey, I need 10 blow pops, and then that children's ministry director need to go buy 10 blow pops. Or we could buy all the blow pops for everybody and then distribute it so that they can be relational with people, not shopping at,
Yeah, picking up candy, picking up props, picking up...
You're giving out blow pops?
I know. Well, that's the key to good children's
we actually
candy.
What have we just learned here?
We let student ministry sugar them up. So
that's totally true.
Yeah, don't pretend like that doesn't happen in some form or fashion in student ministry, too.
They just come to hear the gospel in student ministry.
We'll see. So that kind of highlights the importance of curriculum being the same. Because you can't essentially export and kind of do everything together if this campus is doing one curriculum, this doing another. But Are there places where it breaks down? Like, the one campus is, you said some are 40 to 70 kids. Other ones are like 1,000. How do you deal with what was designed there doesn't work here? And maybe you don't even know it centrally until the person at that campus is like, how does that all work? And does it change a lot? Can they edit a little bit?
So absolutely, they can edit. They can make it whatever they need it to be. But we're super intentional in the very beginning part of the process to make sure that we're creating something that works for our smallest campus as well as our biggest campus. And so that's just something that we've learned over the years. Centrally, we don't want to have to create 3 different packages of curriculum to accomplish the same purpose on a campus. If we can figure out how to create one package, it's going to just serve all campuses regardless of their size.
And there's probably, I'm guessing, some kind of feedback loop or something where, because obviously you've had time now where you kind of know what works at all of them, but you probably still need some kind of feedback thing where you're hearing from campus leaders so they can report back what's working, what's not working,
Absolutely.
you can tweak. What does that look like? Is it held in meetings? Is it
So it's really conversational. I mean, it's kind of an open door, open phone policy. If a campus experiences something that just didn't go well on their campus, they call in and say, hey, we struggled with that. And so either the next time we do something like that, just know that we'd love for you to think through it differently, or the next time we do it, we decided we're going to do it this way. And so we accept that and, applaud them for that. But it's just kind of a conversation the way it happens.
That's good.
Yeah, I think, too, we've been intentional. So we currently have a meeting structure where everybody comes in centrally once a week. Moving that to twice a month starting in 2017, just with the distance between our campuses and knowing that it's not a sustainable model and how do we work a little bit differently. So experimenting with that. But I think, too, our central team is intentional with FaceTime and actually getting to the campuses on a regular rotation so that there is a pulse as to what's working so that Central can continuously be in the loop of, okay, we need to be mindful of, we have a campus that might have 70 kids, but we have another campus that has almost 1,000 kids too.
So you all make it a point to get to campuses on Sundays or Saturdays, whenever you have services, so you can see it. Yeah, that's good, up close.
Now, when we visit campuses, to be clear, we really work hard to make sure that we're not coming in as like food critics.
All they're here, they're going to evaluate everything we're doing.
No, we don't want to be, Central's here. We want to be like, oh man, Central's here.
Yeah.
I compare to food critics because, a food critic comes into a restaurant and has very little to risk when they get in there. But we also don't want to step in as the head chef. Like, we get in there and everything changes because we're there and, we're making calls. So we kind of, the central team that goes and visits campuses for student ministry, and I know Kidman does this as well, our job is to go in there and support. Now we're going to see things, and so it's more like a sous chef. We're there to support what you're doing, but if we see that there's something that could be made better, we'll let you know. But we're also going to tell you the 15 things that were amazing this weekend, and just how wonderful what you're doing is, and also how we might be able to assist you in making it even better. So we don't want any of our campuses to look at Central as coming in as some sort of official status and, they're being critiqued or reviewed. It's never been like that. And we just don't want that.
Yeah. And the key to a good relationship right between a campus and Central is the relationships and the trust, I guess. And so that's probably part of that is, they trust you have their back and you're showing up to encourage them and help them, not show up and tell them what they're doing wrong.
And that takes work. So Chad did say never. So I'm going to take that back a little bit because I would say early on we didn't get that right. And we didn't do that well, but it was learning curve and it was trial and error and it was tough conversations of this doesn't feel good. And so I think we're better for it now. And it feels like we've been doing it well for years. But we did make a lot of mistakes along the way. And that trust, that trust, you hear Andy Stanley say all the time, trust in the gap, have the right conversation at the right time with the right people. And that matters. And that has made a world of difference in our organization.
Probably go back. The reason I can say student ministry is for a long time, our error was we let campuses just kind of on their own and we didn't visit as much. So there wasn't a whole, so kid ministry might have, been learning like, okay, we're coming in as a critic, and student ministry was, we're not coming at all.
Yeah, you were just alone. You were just out here.
So he's like, yeah, we got it right all the time.
There's a central. There's a central. What's central?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're doing whatever we want out here. We learned that, we want to be able to have that visit and those opportunities because our campuses are really excited to show us what's going on and the awesome things that Jesus is doing on each of their campuses. And that's as much a part of it as everything else.
So how about student ministry, Chad? What's it look like?
Sure.
I know a lot of times multi-site, that's one of the biggest challenges because
it is.
Maybe you got it nailed down. So
no.
Not at all. But just the size thing just seems like it's one of the hardest things to deal with is,
really
when you have 40 or 70 kids versus 1,000, that is a big deal. Yeah. But in student ministry, it could literally be the difference of 10 and 500. And sometimes they don't meet on Sunday mornings or with services. And so what does it look like here? And I'm guessing maybe it's changed, but what's it look like now?
Dude, I'm so excited. You'll have to stop me from talking because I love this topic.
Go for it.
I love student men. First off, LCBC, I really am passionate that we don't have a student ministry, that we are a student ministry, because our students are being ministered to in a lot of facets that are beyond just our gatherings. So our students are a part of our main gatherings. Our students are a part of kid ministry and vital parts of serving in kid ministry. Our students play a vital role of what making LCBC. So, but I know what we're here to talk about is mostly our student gatherings and our student environments that we purposely create. So, but
I do like, just to pause real quick, you're saying our church does this too, but they're in the service starting 6th grade or 9th grade?
No, they start going to the service in 9th grade.
9th grade. Okay, so middle school has some kind of during service environment.
So, I'm sorry.
Okay, right ahead. And then high school has a separate gathering, it sounds like. But it'd be good for you to share what that looks like.
Yeah, so our actual environment, so we have a thing called Collide, which is our 5th through 8th grade weekend environment. And that happens on all of our campuses. And basically, that's what you would expect from a middle school, environment. We don't actually say middle school, but we say our 5th through 8th grade environment because a lot of our students in 5th grade are still in elementary schools.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you kick them out of kids ministry, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
That's when they needed to pad their numbers.
Nice.
No, that's what they get below pops, apparently.
The question I always have is, because that's a common thing in church world, is like, do you have a 5th, 6th program or a 6th through 8th? What is it? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times by 5th grade, they're like too cool for school. But is the 4th grade the new too cool for school, or does that seem just right?
It is too cool for school.
Okay. I always wonder if the line just moves.
Yeah. Generally about halfway through the 4th grade school year, there starts to be some disengagement. So
we're really excited. Eventually, 2nd graders are going to be in student.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it sounds like. Just keep moving that line.
One of the things I love about kid ministry is a long time ago, kid ministry decided to do something with us in student ministry that was kind of radical, which was to move the needle to 5th grade being a part of student ministry. And they lost a grade of influence, but at the same token, we recognized that for 5th graders, they were being caught in the just behave trap, which was for our 5th graders, they were being told, something, just behave. We know you're sick of this. We know you're done with this. We know you want to move on, but just behave for a little while longer. And so what we've done was include 5th graders into our student ministry and in that early adolescence. And it's been really dynamic for our student ministry to have that young, youthful, vibrant, exciting, before apathy sets in, while they're still believing they have this audacity of hope and that things can change. And that has breathed life into our student ministry over the last couple of years, and it's just really exciting. Now, our 4th graders feeling some of that. I think that's a society thing, probably more than anything. So,
but it probably will always be there. That's where you can't go all the way down to 2nd grade. There will always be a sense of like, I'm ready for the next thing. And that's okay.
While there's a next thing, there's always going to be someone saying, I'm ready for that next thing. Yep. So there's always going to be someone saying, I'm dissatisfied with where I'm currently at. So you're probably right, Nick.
So just keep it there. 5th grade's all you can give them. That'll be fine.
Exactly. But what I love about LCBC and Jason and his team and everything is we'll always have the conversation, and we'll always wrestle with these things because if doing something different tomorrow means we'll be more effective to reach students and kids for Jesus Christ, then we'll do it. We'll have that conversation.
Why not? There's no sacred cows, so to speak.
I mean, if 5th graders suddenly were better ministered in kid ministry, we would talk about changing that. We would change anything when it comes to reaching people for Jesus.
That's awesome.
So So we got our 5th through 8th grade collide on the weekend, and then on Wednesday nights. Now, currently we are on Wednesday nights for 9th through 12th, and that's our Circle 3 environment, and that happens on all the campuses as well. Each of our environments, we try to create environments that students want to be at. We love nothing more than when a student actually drags their parents to church and goes like, I don't want to miss because, the fun, the games. In the end, it's ultimately the relationships that make our gatherings the most sticky, and they're life group leaders, like we said, the small group leaders that, are invested and they care and they know about these kids, and, they're asking about how your week was. And when every kid walks through those doors, we want every kid in Circle 3 or Collide to feel like a rock star when they walk through those doors, because the leaders are just so excited to see them. Just a heartbeat thing for us as a student ministry is something that you should know is like we have a win statement, and all of our environments seek to accomplish this win, which is we want our environments to accept students as they are while challenging them to change. So in student ministry, we want every kid, no matter what walk of life, no matter what life has, is like out there for them, we want them to be able to be accepted when they walk through those doors. All the while, we know that Jesus Christ offers us all this hope of change, this hope of saying, there's more to life than what you currently see. So we want them to be accepted, and an environment is safe and warm for them, but at the same time, Jesus has got more for you. So that's what student ministry looks like. Now, what Jason was talking about, we have the same kind of central breakdown. We have a small central team of staff that our sole job is to support, resource, and help those campuses pull off the win, help them be able to be the best directors and have the most dynamic and engaging environments as humanly possible. So we work tirelessly to create content and resources and, camp opportunities and retreats and everything like that. We try to provide as much resourcing centrally so that they can have a very successful, thriving student ministry on their particular campus. That's what student ministry looks like here at LCBC.
Cool. And it's the same. You said, because I know that's one thing you'll see in multi-site worlds, just church size dictates that it's not the same at every campus with student ministry, where one maybe is really new and smaller, so it's small groups in homes.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah.
Is that what you have, or either all Wednesday night? It doesn't matter what size?
Right. As of right now, other than our affiliate, it's all pretty much the same. We do have one of our campuses has Circle on a Sunday night because of what they were currently doing when they were adopted as part of LCBC. But for the most part, it's all Collide is on Sunday mornings, and with some having it on Saturday nights as well to match the adult gatherings. And then Circle 3 is mostly on Wednesday nights. When it comes to the actual programmatic stuff, every single one of our campuses for Collide does the same video teaching. So we record centrally provided video teaching with some of our video communicators that provide content that they all distribute and play at the same time on the weekends. When it comes to Circle 3, we do live teaching, but they all follow the same template, the same big idea, which is the main point we want them to take home, and all of the subsequent teaching points. They all kind of follow that same template. So if someone comes to this campus or this campus or this campus, content-wise, it's going to be really the same, especially on the weekend. It's going to be identical. Now, when it comes to games, activities, the things that make things accepting, we allow a lot of autonomy when it comes to those areas for campuses, because I have a campus in Manheim that might have 250 kids in a gathering, and then I have another campus that I might have 15 on the same morning. It is not fair for me, nor realistic for me to say, play the same game.
Sure. Because, yeah, the 250 would be hard to play like a game.
Well, yeah, it's exactly.
Getting groups and, yeah.
It's not fair to either, because it's not fair for the 15 to go, you can't play that because the 250 can't play it.
Yep. So,
or the same token to say to the 250, you can't do that really awesome worship idea that you had because this campus doesn't have the band or the musicians for it. Mm-hmm. We tried that for a little while. So you want to talk about some of the mistakes, because I really want to be honest. We don't have this all figured out, buddy. You're sitting here talking to us. And
nobody does.
I'm looking behind me like, who are you talking to? We're still figuring this out. But one of the things we tried to do was make things very vanilla and just go, everyone must do everything the same. Uh-huh. But we realized we robbed people of some of the uniquenesses and the sweetnesses of their individual campus and their individual campus size. And we kind of robbed them of some of that when we said, you've got to do it this specific way. So where it's most important, where it's very mission driven, the content and stuff like that, very identical. When it comes to the funnel of what a gathering looks like, that's going to be really, we're going to ask that they adhere to that. But when it comes to the actual elements of games and what they're training their leaders on in a particular time, that we allow a lot of autonomy to make their campus run well. And we'll speak into it when necessary.
Do you give them options for games, or is that kind of like it really is
Absolutely.
on you? Oh, you give, so here's some ideas, but
we give them a lot of
whatever you want.
Something, dude. There's youth pastors.
Yeah.
I want youth pastors. These are not
creating games and thinking this stuff themselves.
They should wake up in the middle of the night and go like, oh my gosh, this crazy thing. This would totally work if I put Diet Coke and Mentos and did this and inside the building and with an umbrella. And I want them to do that for the uniqueness of their campus, because their students are going to benefit from it. But also, when they have those good ideas, they often will bring those ideas to Central. And then if it's a great idea, we can actually resource many campuses to have that same idea, the same game, same whatever it might be. One of our campuses had this idea to do a little bit of a parent meet and greet before Christmas Eve gatherings. So their idea was like, what if we just invite parents to all come 15 minutes, they'll get a chance to meet their life group leaders, and then we'll all sit together in the main gathering for Christmas Eve gatherings. They tried this out. It was highly successful. So successful, in fact, that we actually said, okay, why don't we invite other campuses to try this on their campus, and we'll actually resource them, and we'll provide higher quality print materials and stuff like that. And now several of our campuses are actually doing that this year for Christmas Eve gatherings, because one had an idea. And if we had just said, well, not everyone's doing that, so you're just going to have to not do it. We let one try it, and it was really successful. And now many are going to actually do it.
That's cool. You hear that a lot, that that's one of the benefits of multi-site model is they say innovation happens like on the edges. And so like when you're smaller, a little more nimble and all those things, and so a campus can do something new, and all of a sudden, hey, we can all do it. Or not. I think when I was here visiting 6 months ago, you had growth track type stuff in the lobby and different next steps people could take. And I thought at the time, whoever was telling me about it told me it was happening at 2 campuses. Yep. It was in this, what I would call trial mode.
Yep, you're experimenting.
So that's interesting. Did it stick?
It stuck, and now all campuses have it. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, LCBC loves this idea of try. We try things, and we fail at things. Like 100%. We don't get everything right, but we try really hard to give something a good chance and provide the resources to make it work. So I kind of like the cruise ship analogy. So it's like, a cruise ship moves very, very slowly, but a speedboat can move significantly quicker. So if we want to try something, trying it on a small campus, they can kind of, move with it a little bit. And if we want all the campuses to do it, then it's the cruise ship. Okay, it's going to take us a little bit to get everything, all our I's dotted. Yeah. But it does allow us to try things, which is nice.
I think a lot of times people think of kind of the average church, and you don't think of quality. So they think of failure. Although I don't know about you all, but I see a lot of churches as the other side. We don't do it unless we know we can do it. Like we're not even going to try it. We're so afraid to fail. So that's cool. And I think sometimes you could picture a church like LCBC that's very large, multi-site, and think they don't try and they don't fail at anything. And like you're saying, that's not true.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah, there's so many times where we will attempt a great idea, what seems a great idea on paper, and go, that wasn't the best way of doing that, and let's try it a different way. And of course we don't talk a whole lot about that because we want to just talk about the things that are currently working. But yeah, if you had another hour to give us today, we'd tell you all the things like, that didn't work, but we're going to try it differently next time. So
that's good. How about staff structure? So I don't know who wants to field that one. Looks like they're going to look at you, I think. But like
Sonia loves
and especially having been here since before you went multi-site.
Yeah.
What does the staff structure look like now? My guess is, being 9 campuses, you're led by your campus pastor, and that's sort of your primary lead. But describe that, and if it did change.
Yeah. So you're team 1. So we've got the central team and the campus team, and so there's the solid line, the dotted line, the joy of the matrix organization. And so launching a campus, if we have a full-fledged campus, we'll have a campus pastor, next steps director, a kid ministry director, and a student ministry director as well. And then as we continue to grow, we'll add coordinators, part-time or full-time, whatever the context of the location, as well as what the attendance numbers are and what the campus is needed. And then the central team is a little bit smaller currently. And so each ministry currently has a central team that has a dotted line relationship with the director of the ministry on each of the campuses, and has meetings with them on a regular basis and one-to-ones. Yeah. Makes sense, yeah.
Yep. And so for people that aren't familiar with multi-site or like the matrix thing, solid line is like that's your primary primary report at the end of the day, and you're saying that's the campus pastor. So if I'm the kids pastor to campus, my primary leader is my campus pastor. My dotted line, second team, I guess, would be the ministry at Central.
Yes.
Are there some good fights? Do you have some good... No? I see smiles. There's always disagreements.
There are great conversations.
They're great conversations. That's a good way to put it. But has it gotten to a point where it's like, I mean, now 9 campuses in, is it pretty good? I mean, you just have conversations. Conflict obviously comes up, but...
Yeah, I think conflict's always going to be a part of it. I think we're passionate about what we do. And there is that tension of Central figuring it out and campuses figuring it out as well, and they're local and everybody owning a piece of it. And so I think it's a healthy tension. I love our senior pastor David one day had shared with us, just waking up excited to just figure it out. It's not black and white. It's not a puzzle that's going to be put together by the end of the day, but it's something that we're always going to have to work on figuring out what it looks like. And so it's building the intentional relationships and that relational equity that's going to build the trust. And so, I want to do this. Well, no, we can't always do that. So I would say, do we fight? Do we fight fair? We try to.
Yeah.
Do we always fight fair? I don't know that it would be fair to say that we do. Chime in. You guys are on the front lines.
Go ahead, Jason.
You might be the ones in the fights, calling the campus pastor over there like, hey, wait a minute.
One thing that I have appreciated being relatively new in the role that I'm in, I had a relationship established with almost all of the campus pastors. And so now I have this interesting dynamic where if it is something that seems like it could be a tension point or it's a direction that we need to decide for kid ministry on that campus, I feel like I can just go to them and say, hey, where are you standing on this and how can we work through this together? And so it's a back and forth conversation. Most of them are very passionate about their campus and their staff and want to do everything that they can to protect that. But they also recognize that Central brings a level of expertise to the conversation that they may not know of. And so they're more than open and willing to hear and listen what our perspective is. And then I think if we just talk it out from there, it seems to work pretty good.
Yeah, and the relationship's probably key. I've heard that many times. In fact, a friend of mine that's a next-gen pastor at a large multi-site church, he jokes about his whole job is just meeting with campus pastors and keeping the relationship. Not like, oh, here's an agenda, but like, hey, let's stay connected because there's going to be that time when we disagree and we want to start, kind of like you said, waking up when to solve the problem, not maybe fighting, like the word I used. That it starts with trust, I guess.
It really does. I think it's, if there is tension or there's conflict or if you hear something or something just didn't go right, if I know the heart of the person and they know my heart, it's a very different conversation after that because I know that it didn't come out of a bad place. And so I've got to trust that there's a reason behind it versus getting frustrated. And so I think managing that, and there is just so much to that relational time and equity, which does take time. And I think, Jason shared about his role, me, same thing. I probably have transitioned into my role a lot more smoothly because I was intentional about building relationships and cared about other ministries outside of my own ministry because we're all in it for the greater good. We all want to introduce people to Jesus and together help fully follow him. And so we're all on the same team. So that's been huge.
Yeah, Chad and I have it easy. If we run into conflict, we just run and get Sonia.
That sounds like
her relationships to make things better.
So as long as she has them, you're good. That sounds like a really good, healthy team. Let me go get my boss to fix
really
my problems.
You're learning new things here, Nick. This is really exciting.
We could have a segment of what not to do. But speaking of one team, we were talking before we recorded that churches do children's and student ministry all kinds of different ways, and probably the more common thing is they're just different teams. There's a children's team, there's students, different ministries, different leadership. Ideally, one church, not against each other, but not exactly working together. And then there's more of a trend now to bring that all under one umbrella and kind of make it one team that has distinct look. But that's more complicated, I think, when you're larger, and it's more complicated when you're multi-site. So what does that look like here? It's not structurally, staff-wise, one team. Correct? But where do you work together? Are there places you wish it was you work together more? Is it in a good spot? What does that look like?
I'll let Chad answer.
Okay. I was going to say there's probably going to be some pointing here.
I'd say we're heading in the right direction. I don't think we've reached a destination, and I don't know if we ever actually will on this one. Because there was a season where I think we were very siloed, where I don't think kid or student ministry would have known what each other was even doing. And the only time we ever talked was like, what's the date you're giving me the kids? And, that was about it. And unfortunately, there was a season where we were both trying to both trying to do ministry as best we could. And now there's some real purposefulness in conversation and communication to be able to share, communicate, and align where we can. But we're also, I'll just be really forthcoming to say, we don't align in some areas that we feel it's best that we don't. We reap the benefit of being able to have Jason and his team, think very purposely, very focused on kid ministry and the needs and the unique dynamics of kid ministry, in the same way that we have a team that's built to do that for student ministry. And so those two things, they do need to be different. But you know what they both have in common? Things like parents. So there's some areas where we've looked at, parent trainings. We did our very first kid and student ministry, leader training and parent training all together last year. And that was something where we could say, let's leverage all of our gifts, our strengths, and be able to reach the same group for the same good and the same cause. So that's how we're kind of walking down that path together. And another one is Upgrade, which is our weekend where we transition students from kid ministry to student ministry. We worked really hard to make sure that we were all under the same umbrella of Upgrade and the same, using the same packaging and everything like that. So a parent gets really clear communication. New student cards. We just started talking about okay, your kid cards and our student cards look very different, and parents have to fill out them both. Can we come together and figure something out so it's easier for new families? So things like that, we're really excited to have conversations, but also we celebrate each other's differences and uniquenesses, and we don't expect to be a perfect match, because I think we need to celebrate where we are unique. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and be different things to minister to students versus kids. But it sounds like you're working on more things together. Well, we train the parent thing, and there are opportunities.
I use that language of try. We're trying.
Well, we're serving the same families. We've got families who have kids who are in kid ministry, but students in student ministry. And so why are we hitting them from so many different angles when we're serving the same families? Yeah. So trying to figure out how do we move forward in that direction. Yeah. I think uniqueness of what curriculum looks like, and in that area will continue to be different, but we have the same vision and model of, hey, we're asking you to serve weekly because consistency matters, and we want you to show up, and we want to lead small in life groups. And so I think there's a lot of areas that we are probably more similar than I think we even realize, but there's definitely uniqueness in both. And I think so just recently, probably about a year ago, our central offices are closer together. So just even being in the same proximity, I think, is helping us develop a relationship between the two ministries as well. Playing in the same sandbox, I think, just has made a difference.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. And even just some of beyond proximity, it was also just the sharing each other with the win. Something we've started to do with our staff even is starting to vision cast the why of what we're doing and hearing the heartbeat of each other. It develops, again, that trust. Not to put too fine a point on it, but I think I'm not saying any churches necessarily feel this, but I imagine some churches feel like kid ministry, that's their thing, and they're a mess over there. And the same thing with student ministry. Often, they're just crazy pizza, whole couch.
You aren't.
Surprisingly, no. But as we've started to even have some time with our staff together to realize their heartbeat is the same as mine, and the win is we want the same win. When those kind of things happen, I think it fills this gap with trust. So we can accomplish the same kind of goals, and we can race to the table to have those kind of conversations when those things happen.
When you were talking about the same win, I thought you were talking about when we went to Laserdome. We were all on the same mission.
Oh, you were against each other?
Totally.
I was going to say, that would have been a good team battle.
That's a great example. It's we had that day where we actually went laser tag, go out and take your Kidman director laser tag shooting, I guess.
I only got videos of a dance party.
Oh, it was fun. It was very fun. But we also, at the end of that day, we shared this whole vision of, every student matters. And, we gave the illustration of each one's unique, and we had all these different colored buttons. And it became a metaphor that we use in both kid and student ministry, and sharing that metaphor for, every student and every child matters to God. Boy, that was huge. That was really huge. And now the same kind of heartbeat is pumping in kid and student ministry here at LCBC. And I love that whenever we can do that.
I'm sure we could make a whole podcast on the question I'm about to ask, but what you said makes me think about it. In terms of volunteer onboarding, training, development, what does that look like? Is it essentially, I don't want to say decided but do you help essentially do training and then export that and they just kind of execute it? Is it campus level? What does that look like? And maybe it's different. I don't know.
Jay?
Go for it.
Yes, for us in kid ministry, we do provide all of the training centrally and equip our campuses to execute it. We have central processes through which background checks are all taken care of. Again, just organize people to really stay on track with that and allow the campuses just to be relational. So that's how we do it. We do everything as much as we can centrally to allow them to be loving on people.
Share a little bit about, sorry. No.
Go for it. Go for it. Jump in there.
Jason.
I know you got to go soon. So
yeah, share a little bit about, Nick talked about onboarding. So I love, just as an organization, we talk about doing a test drive and we do a tour and intentional about what that looks like. And I think that that's something that's helped us become successful in getting people in the right seat and in their right fit. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah, generally our onboarding process in kid ministry takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. It does start with a tour. If somebody shows interest or if we are interested in somebody, we'll invite them to take a tour of the ministry, just to walk around. It does a couple things. It lets them be exposed to the ministry environments and see what's happening in kid ministry. It lets us get to know them a little bit. And if that's something that intrigues them, hopefully they pick an area that they're interested in, whether it's 2-year-olds or elementary kids. And so the next step in that would be to line up a test drive and come in and experience it alongside another well-seasoned leader so that they can get, explanations along the way of what they would do if this was the role that they would fill in a serving commitment. And so they go through that for a couple weeks. And then once we're kind of getting ready to sign on the dotted line, they have application background checks are all part of the process. And then our ministry is called Kid Venture Island, and so there's an island orientation that they go through. And once all of that is completed, and again, it could take 4 to 6 weeks or so. Once that's all completed, then they're an approved and cleared volunteer to start serving on their own, leading their own group, or serving in a tech booth, or whatever it is that they might do. So that's our onboarding process. Student ministry does similar, but yet a little different process.
Now, before we talk about student ministry, do you intentionally, they don't fill out the paperwork, so to speak, application, background check. Do they do that right away, or do you let them kind of do the tour and maybe a little bit of the test drive before they do that?
Generally, if they come through test drive week number 1 and they're feeling real excited about it, that's when they'll get an application link and start that process.
Okay.
If they land in an environment and they're like, I don't know, that wasn't quite for me, let me try this one, then we'll let them try that one. We might get to the point in the process where they're like, I don't think kid ministry is for us. And so why put all those wheels into motion if it's not really where they need to be? We need them to be where God wants them to be. And if that's student ministry or if that's adult ministry, then let's just kick the tires a little bit and let's let them experience what they need to experience.
That's good. And I imagine, too, that for some folks, if they don't make it through a couple of those early steps, then you haven't hit them with the application. They obviously want everybody to serve and get connected, but the reality is we all know not everybody actually serves or follows up with the next step when they say, yes, I'm interested.
Yeah,
and
and we fully believe as an organization that serving might not be somebody's best next step.
Yeah.
We might find that out through a tour, through interactions, and through their first test drive that there's something better for them than serving right now.
Yeah, that's good.
Really well put. Yeah, student ministry very, very similar when it comes to the whole process of onboarding. I'd say that our essentials guide is what we do. So instead of island orientation, we have an essentials guide, which is basically our handbook, if you will, of all of our best practices, procedures, policies for student ministry. So once they've fully gone through the whole process of onboarding, the training happens, and that happens with each of the individual campus directors and coordinators from that campus, so they have that relationship with them, and they actually walk them through the entire book and make sure that they're really clear. And then there's a season of just, walking beside them. Every volunteer, learning how to do student ministry well is a learning process. So we don't assume that we just throw them in there, but it's a constant every week teaching them new things. All of the leaders in a leader huddle or a leader meeting of some kind that every campus has, they're constantly reminding them things that they learned in the Essentials Guide, or the new trainings, a new reading, a book that we all want to read together. Those kind of things are happening every single week to make sure that each of the volunteers is becoming the best possible student ministry volunteers that they can be. Because in the end, the campus director can't be the hero. Especially if there's 200 kids, they need each life group leader to be the absolute best possible version of themselves that they can be to help lead and minister students towards Jesus Christ. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I know we're wrapping up on time here, so I could ask a million questions. So if you
got one last
if you let me stick around, it would be another one that would probably open up. Well, I'll ask this. So, in speaking of the training, it's kind of in the vein of the training. Another thing that I would say is a trend in churches, which is a good one, I think, is churches are trying to focus more on, I would say, like a consistent structure, or some will call it a leadership pipeline, and just a way that you know how it's organized and how to help people grow from one level to the next as a leader. Is there anything like that here? Is it a consistent thing? Like this campus, the structure, the organization of the volunteer teams is pretty similar, even if the size is different. How do you help, organize it all, I guess, when it comes down to the campus level, especially with one that's a totally different size than the other? They're looking at you.
I know they are.
And you're looking back.
Hey, I'll speak in kid ministry while she thinks.
Great.
Our structure within kid ministry is the same and scalable. And so whether you have 40 kids on a campus or 1,000, the same roles exist on both of those campuses. I think where our leadership pipeline comes from in kid ministry is once somebody has their foot in the door, once we get to know them and we recognize their skills, talents, and gifts, we ask a little bit more of them. We ask them to be in a higher capacity as a volunteer. And so that allows us then to give them a little bit more responsibility, be a little bit more of the church. And ultimately, I would have to say probably 80% of our kid ministry staff has come through that process of serving at one point in time, and maybe in a very limited role, 20 minutes for a gathering. And then they slowly ramped into a higher level of volunteerism, and we saw something in them and just kept pouring into them, growing into them. We challenge each of our staff on campuses to find a few people and just pour into those few people. And I think that is our leadership pipeline. We hire most of our staff through somebody that was a volunteer previously.
And those volunteers, like our volunteers, empowered to lead other volunteers too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So I don't know if it's the same name or the role. Like a lot of churches will call them a coach or something like that. But
for us on the island, it's a captain.
It's a captain. Okay, nice. That makes sense. I like that. Keeping with the theme there.
I had a Captain Neil joke, but it's a bad joke, so I'm not going to go into it. Ours is we have coaches, so we don't have captains, we have coaches. But in the end, it's very similar. We have opportunities. We want everyone serving for this to be their favorite part of their week. So they go to their job, but they can't wait to come to church on the weekend and serve and have a great time and see the friends in the community. And part of that is giving them opportunities to do different things. So the same thing, Jason. I'll just repeat that. Is just opportunities and increasing in responsibility. LCBC very much so. We run because of volunteers, and the volunteers are just such an integral part because they are the body of Jesus Christ. So we just want to give them further opportunities, but at the same time, we know not everyone is gifted at the same things. So we want to give them different opportunities to try things, and then we go, that didn't work, or, you'd prefer to serve in a different capacity, and that's okay too. But and then there's sometimes where paid ministry is actually, an amazing next step, where sometimes there's opportunities where those very volunteers that were faithful and they were great fits actually become part of staff. But sometimes the very best role you can possibly have here at LCBC is being one of those amazing volunteers. So yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for the time. Really appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah, this was good. Thank you. We could have talked for a really long time.
Oh, I definitely could.
Yeah.
I could talk forever. That would take all your time. So appreciate it.
But Thank you. Nick, thanks for having us. And it's been exciting to listen to your podcast, and you're stepping out and just speaking into and giving a platform for other leaders to learn from other leaders. And I think that's super important. So thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and LCBC, we're continuing to listen to podcasts like this and learning, as well as we're doing the talking, but we're also doing a whole lot of listening, because we want to be able to do this well. Yeah. So we're learners here. So
yeah, hopefully we all are and get better together. It's my favorite part about the podcast. It's like an excuse to now learn, versus previously maybe I only learned if I came out, like I visited with you guys 6 months ago. But now it's like every week I get to learn from amazing leaders and what they're doing, and totally different philosophies sometimes, which is
trying different things out in the end with the hopefully the same goal.
Yeah, totally.
It's good stuff.
It was fun. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks.
Well, that was really fun. I wasn't quite sure how that would work with 3 people, 4 people counting me, and the recorder in person there and all that kind of stuff. But it was a lot of fun. They were so humble. They're so kingdom minded. I appreciate all they do. You may have heard my reference that I learned from them before. Last year, went up there and just observed what they do, asked a ton of questions. I love learning from churches, and it was a lot of fun to learn from LCBC then and in this interview. So I hope it was helpful to you. And a couple action items I think of are, 1, if you're multi-site, think through how you do what you do and compare it to LCBC. What do you like more about what they do? What do you like more about what you do? Or maybe it makes you ask that question, why do we do it this way, right? And then compare and communicate, why you do what you do, and just kind of reinforce it, maybe improve some things. Think about how you can go from however many sites it is now to 2 times that many. What would that look like? That might be helpful. And if you're not multi-site, is there something you can take from their approach of having teams of people kind of prepare things and then other teams of people execute, if that makes sense? So they have a central team that prepares curriculum and writing and resources and content and all of that. And then they send that out. And the people's job at the campus level is to serve and love and care for people. Their job is to focus on that primarily because these other things have been taken care of for them. I mean, our church wants that model no matter what. We want to be about people first and foremost. And so we have to take care of all that other stuff. But how can we do that in a way that frees us up, especially during services, to care for people and connect with people? I think that's a great question. And that's something that we can all learn from LCBC. Well, I hope you enjoyed the interview. Be sure to subscribe. In the next episode, I talk with Tom Pounder. You may know Tom from his podcast, YM Sidekick, and his blog. And we talk about youth ministry and social media. And we also talk a little bit about Tom's church. It's a pretty unique facility that they bought for dual use. I've not seen anything like it, though I'm sure there are many like it, around the world. But it's pretty cool, and we talk about that and some of the benefits of that facility in terms of youth ministry and how they use it. So you don't want to miss that. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Family Ministry Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Nick Blevins Family Ministry Podcast. We hope this helps you maximize your church's potential. We would love to hear stories of how you apply what you've learned. You can do that by leaving a comment on iTunes or in the show notes at nickblevins.com.